Hi, hello, welcome. I'm not gonna talk about how tired I am, besides saying I'm tired. So, anyway, I had an idea for a way to get cards, and then we'll just see what's coming up. So, I did it once on here before, um, and I got a lottery scratch off, like a scratch off ticket, and it's this Uno scratch off, and there's like yellow 7, blue 7, blue 6, yellow 6, red 2, red 1, yellow 1. And then you have to match, like, you get 25 cards, and then there are selected cards at the back. I could show you. It's like one of these. So the ones that are scratched off down here match ones that are scratched off up there. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because there's no conflict of interest, I guess. No prizes were won. I guess it's unfortunate because then that would have been like the winning hand. Um, but so I'm using the Wada known tarot, animal spirits, archetypes, and alchemy in the order of red, green, blue, yellow. Red, blue, green, yellow. Sorry. So the Wada known tarot was red. Wada known animal spirits was blue. Alchemy was yellow, and archetypes was green. I separated the piles into ones that were on the game board and ones that were not on the game board. There are only 5 cards that weren't on the game board, and none of them are archetypes. All of the archetypes were on the board. And then, so that's what, 5 that weren't on the board and 20 that were. Now, what I could do, if it was a 0, I just pulled the bottom. And then, like, if it was 1, I pulled the first card. If it was a 5, I pulled the 5th card and I set it out. That's how I went about getting all the cards. And I figured I'd do it before I went live because it takes a minute. And then I grabbed the Tarot Nefertari to like clarify whatever. Because I don't know, every now and then I want to be one of those, like, I have a pre-pulled spread and then I'm going to like clarify whatever as we go. Just for a change of pace. But again, like, there were no prize hands. So there's nothing, like, I left everything face down. But anyway, what I could do, because there are some 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of these are only missing 1 card. So I could pull the corresponding 1. Oh my gosh. This would be so much work. I could pull the corresponding 1 and then like see what it would take to complete these hands. Maybe I will do that. So it's number 1, number 2, number 4, and number 5. 1, 2, 4, and 5 were the ones that were only 1 card away from completion. 3 and 6 were both 2 cards away. So I could technically do all of them. But I'm already tired. 2, 4, 6. I'll roll a d6. That's how we're going to do this. So choose a number between 1 and 6. I'll do at least 2 of these. And if it resonates, it resonates. Excuse me. That's how we'll do it. I guess I'll reveal the cards. Before I do that, I'll reveal the ones that were not a part of Now I wish I had like little. Remember when they did the post-it flags? I wish I had little post-it flags that I could have stuck to the back of these, like blue, 7, red, yellow. Those are 2 colors, but I don't. It just would have been easier. Um, so it actually goes alchemy, tarot, animal, tarot, animal. So the alchemy that isn't a part of that wasn't on the game board, but was in the hand is Coerum Terra, Earth's Heart, which is number 52. The 5 of Pentacles, the Bear, the 6 of Pentacles, and a Tarantula. Earth's Heart, the 5 of Pentacles, the Bear, the 6 of Pentacles, and the Tarantula. That's interesting. Um, it's like at first the heart of the earth is sad. And then we get to the bear, and then it's the 6 of Pentacles and the tarantula. The it the 6 of Pentacles and the tarantula makes it feel the tarantula is something that is almost like something that we know or are familiar with, but is also very much so not. Oops, I did not want to do that. Right. Like we're familiar with spiders, but the tarantula, although it's built like a spider, looks like a spider, because of what it is, it operates very differently. So I guess ultimately, yeah, it is what it is. I don't. If I'm gonna do this, I don't have the spare brain power. Those are the cards that are in the hand, but not on the game board. 525. Excuse me, 525 bear 6. So let's put these back in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Choose a number between 1 and 6. And before, like when I was getting everything ready, a Tari Mairo came to my mind. I took Japanese class for a few years at Purdue, but I couldn't remember what Atari Maino meant. So I said it in the Google Translate, and Google Translate says natural, but it can also mean common, obvious, or reasonable. And when I saw the reasonable, I was like, ooh. Because like with natural, I guess the Earth's Heart is a card, but it's not on the game board. When I saw natural, I was like, okay, but like I had no connection to it. But when I again, like when I got to reasonable, I was like, ooh, or even common in some ways. But anyway, excuse me. Hey Google, roll a d6.
You got 1.
1. Interesting because 1 has 3 ones. 1 is 11180, and the blue 0 is the one that is missing. It's the one on the game board that is not in the hand. So I'll timestamp it after I find the cards, because again, it's going to take me a second. Well, now that I have all of these, I'm just going to put them in order. I separated them to make it easier, but that doesn't actually make it easier. And I'll go backwards. So blue 8 is here. So this is the blue 8. Green 6. Green 2. Blue 6. Blue 1. Yellow 0. For zeros, I'll pull from the bottom of the deck. Yellow 1. Red 1. Yellow 4. Green 9. Blue 5. Yellow 6. It's not here. Red 0. Blue 7. Green 3. Blue 2. Red 4. Hold up. Red, blue, red 4. Blue 2 is not here. Red 4 isn't here. But this wasn't red. This was. Hold up. I'm saying this is red 4. Blue 2. This was probably blue 2. Then red 4. Cool. Yellow 5. This is, yeah, because this was yellow. No, alchemy was yellow. Hold up. This is not going to be in the right order. It is what it is. Because this was blue. No, this was yellow. Blue 4 is not here. That's the animal that was here. Red 2 is not here. Red was the tarot. Yeah, okay. Red 9 is here. 8, yellow 8 is this one. Green 0 is this one. Okay, we're back. Green. No. This was yellow. Girl. Green 0? Did I already say green 0? This is green 0. This is yellow 9. And this is yellow 7. I remember the first card wasn't on the table. And at first it was all alchemy and archetypes. So roughly, this is the order that it's in. So it said 1. Yellow 1 is 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. The 19th card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Spring. I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. Because this is yellow. Yeah, this was yellow. Red, green, blue, yellow. Okay, that's right. And then it's red one, so the card before that, and this is red. Okay, the world. Blue one, if that was 19, then this is 21. And this is blue. Okay. The firefly. Blue 8, which is the last card, which is the nightingale. At least pictorially, it's making sense. And it's missing the blue 0. So we have spring, the world, the firefly, and the nightingale. We'll say. I'll timestamp it because I said I would. I'm going to say hand 1. 15, 40. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do. I'll do one more of these. If you chose one, maybe there's no point in choosing either, really. Spring, the world, firefly, and nightingale. See, but spring in the world is interesting because that almost plays off the energy of the cards that were in the hand but not on the game. Because there was something about, in general, like if I had no what bearing, if the heart of Earth was a person and not literally Earth, it would be an energy that was like there's someone whose heart is kind of closed off, not necessarily because of a lack of affection, but because there was no one that knows that person. And it's like if we think of love languages, like let's say that someone's love language is words of affirmation, but a lot of people in their life are gift givers. And so the person gets a lot of gifts from people, like gets the person gets a lot of tokens of love through gifts that they are given, but it's almost like the words are never said. And so while they can be so loved and appreciated, nothing is given in the way that they best receive or recognize it as love. And so like that could be someone that feels like people try to like buy them off or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they give me a lot of stuff, but there's nothing of substance because substance to them is a word of affirmation. And that's like the 5 of Pentacles. And I put the cards all back together again. So that was the 5 of Pentacles and an animal, the bear. Well, that was the 5 of Pentacles. And then the bear into the 6 of Pentacles is like there's someone who maybe takes the time to get to know that person or that asks. And they say, like, oh, like words of affirmation is my love language. And so that person gives them words of affirmation. That person validates them in a way that they feel validated. And then that is like the tarantula being like someone who wasn't who we thought they were, you know, because we thought they were like the, that they would recognize our gifts for what they were, but they don't because they're different. It's like no, it's almost one of those like no one really knows me until someone does. So to see spring in the world here, almost like coming off of that, almost like if because it was Earth's heart, the heart of Earth is like recognized and then validated and supported in a way that it recognizes love and validation and support. It comes into the spring season after a long winter. And that again, referring kind of sort of back to the bear, or it could be the bear out of hibernation. The winter is over and things are starting to warm up. So that's spring in the world. It's a new season, it's a new cycle. The sun is coming back up. The nights are getting shorter. The nights have been getting shorter. Spring brings the equinox. So now things are sort of coming into balance, but the days are getting longer and the nights shorter still. We're going into summer. Now, the firefly is interesting because I think it's mostly like an autumn creature or like summer, late summer into early autumn. And I almost wonder if that's because that's when the nights are getting longer. You only really see it. It's easiest to see a firefly at night because their luminescence is outshone by the sun, by sunlight. And then maybe with this nightingale, it's like it's the heart of earth, like singing at being recognized, honored, validated, loved in a way that it recognizes love, rather than love in a way that others are used to giving it. Now, what would take this to a winning hand is. Wait, this isn't even the right card. I went for a yellow 0. It's blue 0. Oof. The zebra, which again speaks to a uniqueness. Now, I don't have my coin to know what we would have won, but that's fine. What's interesting about the zebra is, though, I see the triangle of fire in spring and the fire of the zebra, which is the only fire here. We have the firefly, but a firefly isn't enough. It's like the luminosity, the heat of the firefly isn't enough to crack the seed, but it is enough to like again signal that the days are getting shorter. So the winter solstice is the day of longest night. So technically after the winter solstice, the days are already getting longer. The nights are already getting shorter, but it's not until the springtime really that it truly genuinely feels like it. And so it's almost like there's a lot of foretelling. The birds coming back. I mean, I feel like birds don't even really migrate too much anymore. Like, I feel like I hear birds in the wintertime now. But I wonder if this nightingale is almost like a rooster. How the call of the rooster signifies or coincides with the rising of the sun. I think there's also something too here about almost looking deeper into something with the zebra. It feels like it's easy to get lost in the third eye of the zebra, but to get lost in the third eye of the zebra is to begin a path journey to finding the self. Almost like because there are no boundaries or barriers or something like that. This could also be like, again, with the recognition, with Earth receiving whoever whose heart was untouched, and not for lack of, I don't want to say a lack of effort, but just different love languages. Um, it's like once Earth's heart is touched, it's almost like it stops being like a wallflower, or it comes out of its shell or something like that. I guess this is going to be one of those where if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But yeah, Spring World and the Firefly, it's like things are maybe like there are examples of things getting brighter or better, but it's almost like it's not enough. It's not so much to the point where things are definitively changed, right? And depending on the relationship, depending on seasons and cycles, and the world card is here, so maybe that is, speaking of seasons and cycles, we have the season of spring as the alchemy. It's like there are there are times when things are going good and things like sort of warm up, but for how long? Right? It's almost like, well, is this one of those, if there's a dynamic that goes through phases of like makeup and breakup, like, oh, someone did something wrong and now they're trying to get back in someone else's good graces, so they're going to be nice and loving and whatever. And again, like, it feels like that's the firefly. But when it moves over into the nightingale, it's almost like that's when it's like more concrete, or it's more evident that it's something that is like true, genuine, and like lasting. And at that point, we almost, it's like the true nature or the true character of someone is revealed, because now they know that they're in a safe space, right? It's like if someone is moving in and moving out and moving in and moving out to the point where, like, when they move back in, they don't even unpack anymore because they know that they're going to be moving right back out. So why go through the hassle? But the zebra is like where it can unpack, where it can settle in, where again it can get comfortable. No, that could be us. Um, Maybe we've been in perilous, for lack of another word, situations, and we've gotten used to not unpacking, or we travel light. The nightingale is this, like, again, it's like it's the signal that the firefly energy isn't just a phase. And so then we not only unpack and settle in, but there may be things that like we discover about ourselves. We may be in a period of self-discovery, but self-discovery because we're in an environment that isn't like toxic, or that doesn't produce, it's like a non-threatening environment where we can like actually relax, right? Cool. That's the first one. You will sit here, I guess, and I'm gonna try to put these back together. Was that 19? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my gosh. We started with yellow one, red one, blue one, and blue 8. So everything is like the 18th card will be the first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, I'm not gonna do that. I don't know. We'll see if I have to. I don't think 1118. These aren't used in a lot of other ones. Hey Google, roll a d6.
You rolled 6.
6. The only one down here is the red one. So let's try this. Green 2. Oh, well, this was the last one. So this should be 24. Green 2 is 25 for 3. So this is 24. This is 23. And it's green, which is correct. It's destroyer. And then green 9, which is 2, 4, 6. Wait. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 9 plus 9 is 18 plus 7, and this is 7. Okay. So this is 25 minutes. This should be 16. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. The mother. The destroyer and the mother. Wow. Red 9 is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The tower. Oh my gosh. Red 8 is missing. Red 1 was the second card, so it's the world. And then yellow 5. Yellow 5 is the 8th card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Jupiter. There's no animals here. There's no blue. Well, we have a destroyed world without animals. The destroyer and the mother. The tower. Mysterious tarot card that was not a part of the winning draw. The world. Another mysterious tarot card that wasn't in the hand. Sorry. And then Jupiter. So it's 8 and then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was going to look at the bottom of all the decks, but so we'll say 33, probably 33 is hand 6. 3340. The first and the second. The destroyer, the mother, the tower. Face down card, the world. Face down card, Jupiter. The destroyer and the mother could easily, for me, be like a Kali Ma energy. The destroyer and the mother, sorry. But it could also be that like mama bear. I think that the Two of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles. So it's the destroyer, the mother, the tower, the Two of Wands, the world, the Seven of Pentacles, and Jupiter. The destroyer and the mother is dangerous? Not dangerous. Like the mama bear is a protector. She isn't necessarily a destroyer. And when she forgets that she's protecting, it's almost like that's when she can easily step outside of herself and do too much, to take it a little too far. And then it's like the tower can be a moment of realization of like when someone, it's like I don't want to say a crime of passion, but I guess. And someone is like lost in vengeance or like revenge, and they almost like black out. And then they have to like come back to themselves to like realize what it is that like they are doing. And again, for it to be the destroyer and the mother, it's almost like it goes too far. It goes beyond just protecting, which is kind of sort of interesting because of the book that I'm reading. The cost that we sometimes justify, that again, it's like it goes too far, it's doing too much. We've stepped outside of love, we've stepped outside of protection, and we stepped into anger and hatred and violence. The tower is a moment of realization, like when Kali Ma stepped on Shiva, Lord Shiva. Like that was the moment that almost like brought her back to herself, as far as I know, and my lack of knowing. But depending, it's also, who was it? Was it Segment? Was it Segment that went too far? That lost herself until they what dumped a bunch of red booze in the river in the Nile or something, and she drank it, got intoxicated, passed out, and came back to herself. Paraphrasing, grossly paraphrasing. But then with the Two of Wands, the World, the Seven of Pentacles, and Jupiter, it's like there's this alignment in the Two of Wands that stretches out into the future. And it's like the destroyer can only take things so far. This would be a destruction from which there is no creation when it goes too far. A lot of beginnings come simultaneously with endings, but there are some ways of ending things that are final, in which nothing will grow. And it's this future forward thinking, it's this bigger picture analysis, it's this alignment with one's ultimate end goal and the ability to cultivate, the ability to grow, the ability to make that distant thing more and more and more likely. Both of these are missing from here. So without this, it's almost like there's never a moment that snaps someone out of it. Maybe until it's like someone who doesn't come out of it until everything is destroyed. until again, like there's nothing salvageable. Not only is there nothing salvageable, but nothing can be grown because of the amount and type of destruction. And then it's like season after season, cycle after cycle of just again, like just destruction. Everything ultimately ending. But with this, if we can come to a realization before it's too late, then it's like that's like a phoenix energy where something can be born of the ashes. And it's that again, it's the Two of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles that was missing. Interesting. And this is almost that like allow the world to be rewritten type energy. Um, and this is something that's been over the past few months, kind of sort of since July, maybe into June, well, over the past few months. This is something that has been that I've been kind of sort of coming to understand, I guess, if in a way. Like, what was that, 2020? I think it was 2020, like February 2020, before everything happened. When I went to go visit my buddy when he was in Columbus, Indiana, and I had that dream. I forget what was happening, but I was like, shuffle the board, throw the whole thing in the garbage because we are not getting it. And then I had that dream, and that's when it was like it was the voice of Kalima in the dream, and I was like, oh my gosh! First, I was like freaking out. I heard a voice and I recognized it. And I'm like, oh my gosh! But in the dream, she said, like, if I were to show up today, what would there be of tomorrow? Meaning, if I were to like show up, throw the whole board away. Let's say humanity does it. We take each other out in whatever way, and all of humanity just gone off the planet with who knows what level of destruction to the planet. Hey David, how you doing? But when I had that dream, and she was like, if I were to come today, what would there be of tomorrow? And then I went on a walk with my buddy the next day, and that's when it was allow the world to be rewritten. And then a few months ago, well, it was when I made the decision that I wasn't going to like turn away or look away from things that are hard just because I have the privilege of not being personally involved. Um, I was like angry, of course. And again, I was at that like just throw the whole thing away. Like for us to fail anyone is for us to fail everyone because eventually if it's not somebody across the world, somebody across the nation, somebody across a city, somebody across the street, then it eventually like it'll be us, and then who will be left? It's so interesting how we as humanity in general sometimes can be so compassionless when it comes to others. But then when we are personally affected, we personally feel like, why doesn't anyone care? Why isn't anyone helping me? And then it's like, girl, well, where were you for everybody else? Like when it was somebody across the world, somebody across the state, across the country, across the city, across the street, you didn't care. And I feel like it shouldn't take for us to be personally affected by things. But anyway, that's how the like, if it happens anywhere, it's essentially happening everywhere because it's gonna get to that point. Um, but anyway, it was like I feel like I got like internally like talked down. I talked through a lot of just like fire. But it was like focus on or like don't lose sight of what matters and what's important. Like as angry as I was, again, like it was important to stay focused on what matters and to not get lost in the anger, to not lose love to outrage. And then, so that was probably what about April? And then about July, June, probably within the past few months, somewhere between probably mid June and mid July. No, I think it was like mid to the end of June. Excuse me, but I was packing and stuff. It was like, because I was like, because there was the destructive side of like Kali Ma, but I was like, Lord Shiva is associated with destruction, but the destruction of Shiva is also partnered with the creation of a generation, with creation and generation. It's like Phoenix energy. It's not death for the sake of dying. It's something falling apart so that something else can come together. And it was almost like the rage of Kali Ma because she came into being to consume. There was whoever, whatever, I don't remember the name, but there was the basically demon who's like whenever his blood spilled, it would spawn forth more demons. And so that's why she like drank the blood so that it wouldn't touch the earth and spawn more demons. She was created or she became embodied to basically again like destroy and consume. And so there was no generation there. And that's why when it went too far, it was a bit much. And again, like it was happening in between me like packing and doing all kinds of other stuff. Where one day I just had that question of like, and then it sort of the answer revealed itself through ponderings and insights, downloads, I guess. And that's why here, like the mother that's the destroyer, it's like be mindful that one doesn't go too far because when when love loses to outrage, loses to hate, that's when instead of defending, protecting, or making things right, when it becomes about vengeance, there is no amount of anything done that can replace a love lost. Not in those ways. It's like the world would burn to the ground because it's like no matter how much you take, that's a loss that is irreplaceable. Anyway, And that's not all that Kalima is, which I don't know. I feel like for a while, I don't know. It is what it is. And it was like this. Again, it's the Two of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles. Like this greater, grander, longer sight and an earth that is fertile enough to grow and cultivate. If I were to come today, what would there be of tomorrow? And at first, like, there was no thought of tomorrow because if we have a tomorrow, we'll just keep making the same messes that we're making today. The same mess that we made yesterday and that we've been making for who knows how long. What tomorrow? But then it was like, allow the world to be rewritten. And I was like, okay. I had to be talked down off the rage ledge. Let it all burn. Whew. It was like, you know what, God? I don't know if we as humanity gonna get it together. It might be time. It may be time. Thank you for your grace and your mercy, but it is wasted when we don't learn any better. When we have to be personally affected to care. Because again, for a lot of people, it is what it is. What takes this to the winning hand is the thoughts of the future and tomorrow, and again everything I just said. So, no, that's it. That's it. Let's see what else is in the pile. So we have the kiss, the owl, glass, the despicable face, the tiger, the tarantula, sublimation, the wheel of fortune, the lamb, six of pentacles, the bear, five of pentacles, the blue temple, the one, the sustainer, Pluto, and Earth's heart. Bottom of the decks, we have judgment at the bottom of the red deck. We have the lion at the bottom of the blue deck. We have the hunter at the bottom of the green deck. And mortification at the bottom of the yellow deck. So now I guess I don't know if I'm going to shift gears or just close this. Yeah, that took me a second. I was like, oh. And then, like, I don't know how many times I get taken to the edge, but I'm always brought back. Barely. Yeah, maybe I'll switch gears. What was that? 1 and 6. So if you didn't, again, like, I don't, even before I read it, I was like, I feel like there's no point in choosing. The well and the zebra. The Whale and the Bear. Ooh. I thought she would have still been asleep. Kairos, mythic time. So I guess again, like not again, but it's not to say like not to protect. It's not to say don't get fiery and angry, but don't let that anger cause us to forget why it is that we're angry. Or don't be so consumed by vengeance that we forget what it is that we're trying to protect. That we go too far. That we go to a point that we can't come back from. And where the peace or harmony or the hope that we hold is made void. But you know, we made winning hands. So 2 of Wands, 7 of Pentacles. It doesn't mean that. Oh yeah, Judgment was at the bottom of the deck. It doesn't mean that karma won't find those it's meant to. But there is a such thing as like destruction from which nothing can be created. It's like when we cauterize things. To cauterize something is to like sterilize it, clean it, to prevent infection, but also nothing can grow from it. It's like putting a period on a sentence instead of a comma or some other form of punctuation. Cool. I do still have the Tarot Nefertari. Sure, why not? Speaking of Sekhmet, I think it was Sekhmet. It could have been somebody else. I feel like it was like not Hathor, but and then there are like some goddesses or gods that like shift. You know, they almost become someone else. Or they do become someone else. All right. Oh, that doesn't mean that. Because I was like, I guess I never considered it. Like, I didn't switch up and go from like Kali Mata Lordship, but like destroy this, but in a way that like we can come back. It was just like, calm down, let things play out, allow for there to be a different outcome, even if things may look similar. And I feel like in some ways, what's happening in the world right now raises an interesting question on like if the world is still a place where certain things can be done and nothing be said. Is there still space for certain evils in the world? You know? In a world of old, sure. But in the world now, I don't know. The card that came out is the Sun. Ooh. Wow, 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 wow. 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4. What? I think they're 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or is it? Yeah, it's 9. This almost looked like the 8 of Wands. These rays coming from the sun. Bottom of the deck is the devil. It's like devil energy when they're uh, crouched down, knelt down on the ground, but as it sits up, it comes into the sun. And maybe that's like almost when we come out of like survival mode, when we're not so deep in the weeds that we get a little bit of a perspective vantage point, that it's easier to see that it's more than just this. And then the Five of Pentacles is under that devil energy. Well, I guess it's not enough to just be. It's not enough to just be not like in this position, because the person in the Five of Pentacles isn't in that position either. Like her position or their position is more similar to the sun, or maybe even beyond it, because their knees aren't even touching the ground. But where is their focus? Their focus is on the same thing. Their head is tilted in the same way as devil energy. And in the sun, it's at least eye level. Doesn't necessarily have to be to the sky, but it's not on the ground. And again, maybe that plays into the what I was just talking about. Not being consumed, or not letting outrage or anger, not letting like the fires of rage burn through uh, the warmth of love or something like that. Cool. All right. Hey Google, flip a coin.
You got heads.
Heads. If it was tails, I would have ended it. I'm like, I want to keep going. I don't know where to go. The world. Oh, that's Geb and the other one that I forget. Newt, the sky, Geb, the earth. And the Queen of Chalices. This is almost like the Four of Pentacles in the Crow Tarot. How there was a pentacle at its feet and on its crown. All right. What say thee? What next? What say thee? The Nine of Wands. Like those 9 rays coming off of the sun. Bottom of the deck is the Knave of Pentacles. We saw the Page of Pentacles in the Crow Tarot. Excuse me. Oh, this chair is not comfortable. This is a strange Nine of Wands. This is almost like a body hopper. It's an energetic body hopper. I guess it speaks to legacies of hatred. generations upon generations of exchanging vengeance for vengeance. Because it's almost like there's a spirit that possesses, or there's the rabbit and the snake, and the snake is a threat to the rabbit, and the rabbit kills the snake, but it's almost like there's an energy, like the snake was possessed, and whatever possessed the snake, when the rabbit kills it, that same spirit possesses the rabbit. I don't know if the rabbit knows that the snake was possessed. And that's why it became that energy of like uh strife that is passed from generation to generation to generation. Because the one that makes things right, their spirit becomes possessed by, corrupted by the one that they had just felt, or something like that. Excuse me. 441. Four wands, and then the ace of wands. So like an 8 and 1. And maybe the two, like this 4 of wands and that 4 of wands, it represents like households. Kirsty, hello, how are you? Like you have wronged my family. Like this 4 of wands is the house of the snake. This 4 of wands is the house of the rabbit. The snake, let's say this snake did something to this rabbit's parent. And so this rabbit is avenging their parent, but this snake has children. And their children will seek vengeance against this rabbit because this rabbit felled that snake that felled that rabbit's parent, and maybe that rabbit's parent felled the snake that felled its parent. And again, that's why it's like this. It's this exchange. The spirit goes from the rabbit to the snake to the rabbit to the snake. And maybe this knave of pentacles is this energy where it's almost like it becomes naive to think that anything different will happen, to believe that the world will ever be, or someone's situation will ever be anything more than someone continuously seeking justice or vengeance upon another because of what they did. But this Knave of Pentacles, it feels like it's not the title card is behind the Knave of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles is behind that. Excuse me. So how do we go from being naive, foolish enough to dream of better, to actually doing better? Title card, girl. Who knows? Live life and find out. But it feels like whatever this Knave of Pentacles is creating, and I don't know if it's the expression on his face, but it is not whatever this is. Like, allow the world to be rewritten. And more so than just, at first, it's like, it's almost to allow it. That's the Two of Wands, like dreaming of something different, of a better world. But then at some point, there are certain actions that we have to take. Seven of Pentacles, we have to invest in that becoming a reality for it to be real. Which may mean inconveniencing ourselves sometimes, you know? And are we willing, capable, and able to do that? Sometimes things are good in theory, but when it comes to us being inconvenienced, we're like, oof, inconvenience is where I draw the line. The empty room. The empty room isn't actually, the empty room and the starboard. The egg unhatched. What's that, 42? We just had 42. Because I said 42 was like death. It had to be in the alchemy, right? 42 in alchemy. What was it? I don't know. I give up. Ether, the void. That was 42 in alchemy. 42, ether, the void, and then it's the empty room. And here. The empty room isn't empty. The empty room, it's not empty, but it is effectively empty. It's like the empty room is a dark room. But when we turn the lights on, we'll see everything that is in that room. But because we can't see what's in the empty room, because we can't interact with it, it might as well be empty. It doesn't matter that it isn't empty if we're not of a mind to see what is in there. And it's almost like with this, the 6 is the mirror of the 9, but it's not a mirror, it's an inverted mirror. It's not a mirror in terms of like, if you hold it up to the mirror, you'll see the 9. You have to like turn it upside down. The 9 is the inverted 6. That's better. It's not a mirror of the 6, it's the inversion. And it's like, as long as we're trapped in this 9 of Wands cycle of one making something right, we'll never see what's in the empty room. And maybe that's also the thing, because it's not about, it's because of what it's about, right? I took a class and somebody was like, you know, it wasn't a history class, but there were stories of the olden days. And someone was like, well, they lived in a time where everything was so scarce. And so they were justified in the pillaging and murdering of people because that's what they had to do in order to like provide for themselves. And it's like, girl, well, people, you speak of this world as if it's so different, but people are still doing it today. And if that was the reason, anyway, if it was about resources, if it was about survival, this empty room wouldn't be empty because the divine provides all that we need. If it's about like money, if it's about resources, we could find those things. But it's not. It's about that's what it's about. It's about violence. And it's almost like that's why there's no amount of money, there's no amount of security or safety for some, and in some cases, there's no amount of money, resources, security, or safety that will end that, because that's not what is desired. And if that was desired, it would be more obvious and more apparent that it was truly about resources and not about anything else. But that is very much so about something else. Again, that's why it feels like, because I feel like so often I'm like, the empty room isn't empty. We just like don't see what's in the empty room. But sometimes we don't see because we don't wish to. That's not the reason why this 9 of Wands energy is here. It's not because of money or whatever. It's this loop, it's this cycle. And it's like, that's why the environment is almost never right for the starborn to be born, for the starborn energy to leave its shell. And I think outside of that context, this is just like when we are so wrapped up or consumed with any one thing in general. When we go about pathways that are not designed, intended, or capable of fulfilling whatever it is that we want. Like there is no amount for someone who has like a void in their heart. There is no amount of love from someone else that will fill the void of the lack of love of someone in particular. There's no position within an organization that will give someone the respect they crave that leads them to subjugate others. It's like there are again the void. There are voids that we seek to fill, but not in any truly meaningful way. Meaningful in a way that it will fill that void. And that's why the empty room is like, again, even though it isn't empty, it might as well be, because none of that is what we're seeking. And then some people may have questions of like, well, like, isn't this enough or isn't that enough? Like, you have all of these things. Are none of these enough? And it's like, no. Outside of what's happening more closely aligned to the way that I've read it, against nature. Oof, this is number 56. I don't think I've ever seen this card. Against nature. It's this void, it's this black box. There is no filling, there is no satiating this. The card that came out is Mars Aries. 556. 556. But this is a Mars Aries against nature. I want to read that against nature. I've never seen it before. Contra natural. Also, I guess it's not lost on me. The Atarimaino, natural, and then here is against nature. Hello. I just assumed you were asleep. How are you doing, Holly? Against nature, willfulness to force or control. Force of control with Mars. On some level, we all know when we are going against nature. We recognize it in feelings of impatience and agitation that arise when trying to force certain outcomes. The Contra Naturam card features the Contra Naturam card arrives to remind the alchemist they cannot control the uncontrollable. Nature has its way, enveloping us in a wild narrative that we can collaborate in but not dictate. No matter our efforts to manage every aspect of our lives, the mess ensues. Spring is soggy. The lotus requires mud. People do what they do. This card heeds a warning not to fight the flow of Mother Nature or of destiny. Once we loosen the grip of what we think life should look like, a whole new realm of possibilities awakens. Now is the time to be radically open to what nature has in store for you. And I guess this is an interesting symbol for against nature, because in nature it is the snake that consumes the rabbit. It is not the rabbit that kills the snake. Meaning, like, it's not in the nature, and that again, it almost goes back to the destroyer and the mother. because the mother is not a destroyer. And again, that destruction was beyond protection. That wasn't the protective mama bear. That was a straight up, and she went so far that she went against her own nature. Like that, I guess maybe that's more so the point. That point of no return is when we go against our own nature. And once we go against our nature, I don't necessarily know if there's a point of coming back. And that's not even a point of coming back without, that's a point of coming back within. Because if we go too far, if we do too much, once we come back to ourselves and have that realization, it sticks with us. We are changed because of that. And if we don't come back to ourselves, then obviously we're changed. You know what I mean? And this is Mars. Like Mars is not, I don't want to say Mars is not. It's almost like control doesn't even necessarily truly fall within the realm of Mars's desires. Like I feel like Mars is an energy that is very like active and proactive and I guess reactive. And control is something that is stationary. Control is something that is stagnating. It's almost like it goes against the very nature of Mars to be controlling, even though it's not hard to see Mars as a controlling energy. I feel like it wouldn't be hard to see Mars as a controlling energy. Because it's almost like it's like, again, there's something about control that is so stagnating. It's so still, it's so stationary that it feels like Mars would almost go like stir crazy if it had to be that still. It's not for Mars to be that still. I think also too, again, it feels like there's a need to be a little more farsighted. Because this is giving me like a revolutionary, but it's a revolutionary that has no, it's not, it's like, it's also not within the nature of the revolutionary to necessarily be so focused on the long term. It's in the nature of the revolutionary to revolt. And so it's like if someone isn't careful, but again, that goes to this how things just change hands. It goes, the spirit goes from the snake to the rabbit. Because it reminds, like, there's a show that I watched, and there are a people that are, there is a people that's oppressed by their government, and there's a good hearted, good spirited hero that liberates those people, that participates in their revolution, but no one gave any thought to what governance would be like after the bad government was overthrown. And so what happened was, of the revolutionaries, they ended up in a worse dictatorship. They ended up in worse conditions. It's like the people who took over after they ousted the old people charged even more in taxes. And nobody could afford to live there, so people were fleeing the nation. And it's like how quick they go from celebration to a deeper despair. Because again, like there was no thought for, like, okay, you want to depose this government, but what are you going to do after? What happens when the revolution is over? You know, who steps forward then? Or is everyone just whatever? And so often, I don't want to say in so often because that's like literally one, but I think a lot of times, like, we're in situations and we like to put a lot of, I don't want to say we like to put a lot of blame on something singular and individual, even if that singular individual thing is composed of many, because it's not that they don't legitimately deserve that blame. But again, it's like to remove the individual, you got to have something better in place. Because if not, you can end up in a position where you're even worse off. And again, like Mars isn't necessarily the energy to have that foresight. And it's not necessarily within the nature of Mars, too. That almost takes me to the Eight of Wands from the Crow Tarot yesterday. How there were all of these wands coming in, but there was the crow that was like flying out or weaving between those wands. Like, as this is happening, there is something else that simultaneously needs to happen, or else you're going to be in a worse position. And who wants to be in a position where, like, we think that somebody is the problem and then they leave, and then we find out that, like, maybe they weren't even the source of the problem. And without them, things are actually worse. But again, I feel like that happens a lot at, like, I don't want to say at the grunt level, at the peon level, at like a lower level where there isn't as much exposure to what's going on higher. It's like if you are the bottom rung at a storefront and your manager is making all of these changes, and when you're the bottom rung, your manager almost seems like the owner, like corporate, but your manager is just doing what their boss tells them to do. And maybe your manager, I'm not trying to, I'll finish the metaphor, but I'm not trying to say that, I'll just finish the metaphor. Like, the manager could be someone who actually fights for the workers a lot. Like, the manager could have stopped or prevented even worse situations, right? But without the manager there, like, let's say the employees complain or whatever, they get the manager fired or the manager quits, and then they find out like it was corporate the whole time. Like, it was someone who was above the manager, and the manager was actually looking out for us in some ways. Because when the manager leaves and corporate brings in those policies that the manager fought against, when things get even worse without that manager, and again, it's not necessarily to desire the bad manager, quote unquote, but it's to have a plan. And a lot of times we can be so engrossed in a situation that we don't think beyond the situation. What happens when it ends? Right? It's like, yeah, it's like so many things. We think all of our problems are going to be solved by one thing or two things. And then we realize that that is not necessarily the case. I don't know. And again, it's not that a revolution doesn't need to happen in some way, but it's to also have a plan because, like, if something comes to a revolution, we lose the opportunity of gradual change because now Lawless free for all, the Emperor and the Father of Pentacles. And we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know, but yeah. Cool. Sure, I'll take them. Bottom of the deck is the Sun of Pentacles, which is the Knight of Pentacles, which is the card under this title card. And maybe that's what the title card represents under this Knave of Pentacles. Like all of the things that we don't know and that we won't know until we're put in that situation where we have to find out. Right? Like, let's say, for example, there is a king that is beloved and a lot of complacent, happy people in the kingdom. But all of a sudden, one day, things change and taxes skyrocket and people can't afford this or can't afford that. And so they revolt against the king, dethrone him, maybe violently, maybe not. Maybe it's not necessarily violent. Maybe they just like dethrone him and exile him out of remembrance for the good king that he used to be. So the king is gone, and then they find out that the reason why the king has been charging so much in taxes is because he's been like raising an army and arming an army and training an army because there's a threat of invasion. And no one knew of that threat that the king was preparing for when he switched up so suddenly and drastically. And it's like now they have no one with like military experience. They have no one to lead this army, or maybe they don't even know if they don't give the king the opportunity to explain. And so it's almost like out of the pot and into the fire. And again, it's not to create sympathies for the king in this metaphor, but it's to understand how we don't know everything and how short-sighted we can become when we're so focused on something immediate. Right? Because what comes after? Who is going to maintain the roads and do this or do that? Seven of Swords, Six of Cups, Judgment, and the Daughter of Cups. There's that Judgment card again. Maybe oh gosh. Whew. I sit on this pillow to make this chair more bearable. And then even the pillow becomes uncomfortable. Oh. All right, it's time to end this. Seven of Swords. It would be easy to say that the Seven of Swords is the things that we don't know. That if the fox were to like get up and move, we would find out. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be enough for us to sympathize with whatever. But there are industries built upon taking advantage of unrest. And there are people who will see the chaos of rebirth and will make some kind of grab for power in a way that does not align with the aim of rebirth. Right. So, in the midst of chaos and confusion, they may see an opportunity to become the new ruler. And are they going to be a good one? No. That's self interest. That's like blatant self interest. And maybe again, it's like if we were not outside of our own nature, we would see that. This is so gray. So gray. But again, it's almost like that's why the people who were looking at the ground were in that devil energy. But it's so understandably difficult to not be in our situation when we're in our situation. You know what I mean? Especially when we don't know the things that we don't know. It's almost like the king, in an effort to not make the citizens of his kingdom worry, or in order to not look like he wasn't in control of things, decided not to tell people why their taxes were increasing. But it's almost like in trying to save face or in trying to avoid one thing, he himself walked into something that was worse. And in the metaphor, of course, real life is always more complicated than the metaphor. It's almost like if the people knew why their taxes were going up, if the people knew why the personality of the king had shifted so severely and so suddenly, they would be more understanding. But then that would require the king himself to face his own shadow, fear, or ego. And so, almost in a way that our strengths and our light builds off of each other, so too does our shadow. Like, I don't want to look like this. I don't want to appear like this. So I'm going to do that instead. I'm going to try to save face and also take care of this. But because nothing is said, it causes like distrust in someone else and then of course it's like, well, you should have said, like, I know I should have did this and I should have did that, but I was feeling like this and that's why I didn't do it. And at the end of the day, it's all understandable. But it's like if the king could have gotten over himself, not only would he still be the king, but he would have, in the metaphor, and real life is always more complicated than the metaphor, he would have been able to successfully defend his kingdom. If only he wasn't too afraid to be seen as incompetent or whatever. If only he didn't have his own stuff that he was going through. If only he were perfect. If only he had no shortcomings, then everything would have worked out. But because he didn't say anything, again, the people grew tired and weary, and they overthrew him to be invaded a week later or a month later, or to find out in some time that an enemy was on their door. And again, now they have no king to lead them. They have nothing. They are left vulnerable. What is the moral of this? Is there a moral of this? Again, just like we empower and strengthen one another when we can't face ourselves, and it goes beyond hurting one another. Because again, it's like if only the king could have gotten over himself, his people would have understood. I feel like it's such a common trope for someone to be overprotective of someone else, and through their love and overprotection to keep things from them, and for that to not work out for anyone's benefit, but also for them to be told, like, this person is a lot stronger than you think. Like, they're not a child anymore. They're not incapable of knowing, of handling what it is that is coming. It's what we do out of love. But ultimately, if we can't face ourselves, then even that will fall flat. Don't ask me what this is about in particular. Besides, I guess we're better together. And regardless of how things have transpired in the world, at some point, something has to change, shift, or break. Because otherwise, we'll be easy pickings, easy prey for someone with an ulterior motive to come in and do whatever. Six of Cups, Judgment, and the Daughter of Cups. I don't even know if an animal would help. I guess it can't make it any worse. Ooh, the fox is at the cut. Now it's at the bottom of the deck. Ooh, Cosmic Egg and the Crow. This crow sits atop of this little crystal thingy. Like the crow sat on top of the cup, the wand, the sword, and the pinnacle yesterday. Bottom of the deck is the peacock. The peacock is an inverted mirror. For me, I read peacock as an inverted mirror. Almost like the 6 and the 9. But it's almost like if you would invert it and then mirror the inversion. So it's both an inversion and a mirror. With the peacock. The peacock is like easy to project onto. It's like I've met so many people. I don't want to say I love perfect people. I have a friend who I adore, who she's one of those people that's just kind of sort of good at everything, honestly. And I know a lot of people didn't like her because she was like too perfect. I have another friend who was just so like bright and bubbly, who I love because she's bright and bubbly. But I know a lot of people that don't like her because she's bright and bubbly. And it's like that's almost the inverted mirror of the peacock to me sometimes. And how like there's a certain type of way that we feel about ourselves or about something. And because of that, we project onto the peacock. Like, oh, peacock is trying to do this and it's peacocking. It's like trying to make itself bigger or grander or whatever than it actually is because it's insecure, but the whole time we're projecting that insecurity onto it. And because we can't do whatever naturally without artificially inflating ourselves to the size of the peacock, we assume that the peacock is doing the same. Sometimes it is, Sometimes it isn't. But that's the inverted mirror of the peacock. The peacock is just this gorgeous, beautiful, like peacock, like literally woke up and was like, I'm gonna go for a walk today. And then someone's like, oh, look at peacock. Always out here strutting around like whatever. Anyway. And maybe that speaks to, in some ways, how, I don't know, it's almost like sometimes we think that people don't have problems. Certain people, you know what I mean? Like another one of my friends is almost a combination of like really bright and fun and bubbly and also like good at everything. Now, like everybody loves this this person, but I remember when they told me about the stuff that they were going through, and I was like mind blown. I was like, oh my gosh, like, and it wasn't an act necessarily. It's just like just because we go through things in life doesn't necessarily mean that that's all we have to be, right? Like just because I didn't have a good start to my day doesn't mean that I have to be miserable and angry and grumpy the whole day. Just because I'm happy in one moment or just because I can allow myself to be present in a moment of joy or peace doesn't mean that everything in life is perfect. And it doesn't mean that because I'm choosing to be present in the moment that I'm like ignoring that, you know what I mean? Generally. And maybe that's what this like Knave of Pentacles is building off of. Because again, it's like how it feels like it's foolish or sometimes even impossible to think of a world that can be better than all that it has been, let alone to invest in it, in that better world. And maybe sometimes the title card stands in the position of things that we can't do ourselves, you know? We have the snake and the crow, almost both on this cosmic egg. Oh, and the colors of the daughter cups and the colors and the roots of the six of wands. I'll hold it like this. Maybe. Around the egg, around the gem, around the jewel. What's under the peacock? The fox. Of course, the fox is under the peacock. And again, that's almost like the short sightedness of Mars. To not see that. I don't know. Because at what point is it a short sightedness? At what point? Again, like this whole thing is gray. It's so gray. Is it the responsibility of the citizens to demand answers of the king? Right? It's like if we are treated unfairly in a situation, is it our responsibility? How much of the responsibility lies on us to ask or to put ourselves at the feet of someone who's going through something? And then on top of that, how much is it on us to allow ourselves to be treated in a certain kind of way just because someone is going through something? I don't know. What's the point of this? Google said heads for this. But this very thing, I guess they were looking at each other, the snake and the crow, eye to eye. And that was that sun energy, not looking at the ground. Really coming together to make things better. But not only are they coming together to make things better, each is also capable of receiving the other, you know? And maybe that's a difference too. It's like you can't make something work with someone who's not interested in making things work. You can't make something work with someone who's not interested in compromising, because ultimately they're not going to do anything that doesn't benefit them. And if it benefits them more to not compromise, depending on the person, that's what they're going to do. Whew. Let's get another one of these alchemy cards. As how do we break this? How do we break the ice? Maybe. How do we go? Hi, Janelle. How you doing? Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Oop, what is that? I'll look at it. I'm not going to take it. The blue temple. And yellowing. The yellowing of the blue temple? Does that whiten? I've seen ads where there's some like purple toothpaste or whatever. There's some purple paste that whitens your teeth because they say that purple cancels out the yellow. And it's almost like that energy. Blue cancels out the yellow to make something appear to be white. And it's like it's a difference between canceling something out and lightening something. Because it's like, it's almost like, I don't know paints, but if you have a yellow, oh gosh, I don't know paint. It's easier with light because light works different than pigment. Like if I have a yellow light and I put a clear piece of plastic in front of it, there's no amount of clear filters that I could put on a colored light that will make it look any other color. And even if you put up like a white piece of paper on a red light, it still emits a red light. You know what I mean? But with canceling, it's like something has to counteract something in order to bring it to balance. And maybe that's something that we understand because of this Nine of Wands energy, but we don't know how to properly counteract something without producing more of it. You know what I mean? So it's like we need a yellow filter or a purple filter for the yellow light to make it clear, not a clear filter. You can't. That, like, that's not the way to correct for something. It's been almost 2 hours. Oh my gosh. Bottom of the deck is winter. We've seen 3 seasons now. Only one we haven't seen is fall, autumn. Sugar came out. That's that raw honey. Rather than the manufactured sweetness. Rather than processed sugar, it's raw honey. Heck. How much honey are we getting in winter? There are no flowers to pollinate for the bees to make honey. There's no nectar. It's like it's a world devoid of sweetness. Maybe it starts within the self. Maybe a lot of times we look for something. Again, it goes back to that sense of loss. There are certain things that are lost that can never be replaced. Ever. And it's almost like when we can sit with that grief, that's when the empty room begins to populate. But if we're going out and trying to right a wrong, or nothing ever done is going to right that wrong, nothing ever done is going to replace what was lost. And there's a time for grief. There's a time of grieving for grieving. There is a season that is appropriate. But if we reach a point within ourselves, oh gosh, if it's time to go, woo! Shifting brings momentary comfort. Wow. It is what it is, you know. Let's go final cards. And maybe that's the thing with this peacock energy too. Because the peacock, like, it just is. But because of where we are, there's a certain way that we look at it and judge it. It's like because of where we are, we're affected by peacock in ways that we shouldn't be. Because again, that peacock energy, it feels like it's just living its life and it's minding its business. Like peacock is like, I feel like stretching my legs. I want to go for a walk. And someone's like, oh, look at that peacock strutting down the street, acting like they own the block. And it's like, the peacock is like, out for a walk, girl. You're out for a walk too. Hello. That's how y'all are in the same vicinity. Like you're both walking. And it's this Nine of Wands. And how appropriate that it's the Nine of Wands, I guess. I don't know. I want to say it's just like we got to be better people. But what else can you do? What else can you say? It's nothing. It's just a space that we reach within ourselves. However, we get there where we almost like where we forgive it in order to move forward, in order to move on. I'm shuffling all of these before I get final cards. I didn't timestamp that. Oh well. Oh well. And how interesting that was the drowned temple. It feels like the art of canceling has been lost for centuries. But again, that speaks to the repetitive nature of this Nine of Wands, this unending chain, this unbreaking cycle. The cave. The cave and the shapeshifter. We have to change internally. You know? There was something. I feel like the alchemy of the mountain pass has been like here in different ways. Where it's like it's getting to the heart of something. It's not about how high or how low. Because there's no height is no substitution for depth. Right? It's like we don't reach the heart of the mountain by ascending to its peak. You got to go inside for that. You got to go in the caves. Sap of the moon plant. What's that song? Wherever you are, I'll be there. Whenever you call me, I'll be around. All right, Tarot Nefertari, final card. We got Reginity Bastoni, the Queen of Wands, and the Ten of Swords. I guess we kind of sort of just got to get over it. You know? The Ten of Wands happened. At some point, we have to become more invested in the future. I guess. Again, the Two of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles, that were the key. And that sixth hand to make it a winning hand. At some point, we have to be more invested in the future than attached to the past. And maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe these flowers are in remembrance of the past, but the flowers honor the past while the Queen of Wands moves forward. Six of Swords at the bottom of the deck. Moving on. Literally. I don't know. You know? And maybe that helps, you know? Maybe humanizing things is how we move forward. Recognizing that we've all been wronged in some way. And besides that, we just got to get over it. But it's not like just get over it in a way that's dismissive. It's not just get over it that accuses someone else of living in the past when the present offers much of the same. Again, it's the crow and the snake that met eye to eye. There wasn't one that looked down upon the other. You know, I'm sure that's what kept the rivalry between the hares and the snakes healthy. All right. Now, how was that song? Do, 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 do. Thanks for doing your part. You sure are smart. Thanks to me and you and my dog Blue. The prayer number 40, no, 65. We saw 56. What was 56? I don't remember. What was it? I can't, my brain ain't even working to try to remember. 56 LVI was the gym. We did not see 56 here. Oh, against nature. That's what it was. 56. Now we have the 65 of. Oh, the bottom of the deck, the prayer. Maybe it is our faith that helps us be in our better nature. That helps us be more and to see more than our past, our pain, our circumstances and situations. Maybe it is the divine that helps ease our grief as we put the past away in favor of the future. You know? Blah 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 blah. And a turkey. Oh, I get it. Wait, are turkeys flightless? Wait, peacocks fly. I mean, maybe they don't like migrate like geese, but I thought turkeys and peacocks flew. Anyway, 100 yards or less for turkeys, but they're capable of some flight, just not long distance. The shadow box. The shadow box is interesting. Well, the box came out face up, and then the shadow was face down. The shadow is number 28. The box is number 44. XL40 IV 444. This is that, like, if only the king could um, get over his own ego or his fear of being perceived in a certain way, then his citizens would have understood, would have helped him against the invaders, and they would have done it successfully. But because he couldn't get over himself, it was this whole thing. And again, it was that, like, how our shadows play off of each other to make things worse. Like, oh, you should have told me that you were going through this or going through that. I would have understood. Yeah, but I felt like this and I felt like that. And it's like, so we fell apart because what? Because you couldn't get over yourself? It happens. It's life. No one's to fault. No one's necessarily to blame. But it's the shadow box, you know? And then we have the prayer. I think the prayer is interesting with the shadow box. Because even though we pray, at some point we still got to get out of the shadow. You know what I mean? We'll be in the dark, praying for relief and afraid of the light. Two of Pentacles, Seven of Wands. The Mother of Swords immediately with the Seven of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. The Seven of Pentacles with the Mother of Swords is interesting because that makes it a lot more pragmatic. That makes it like if the Queen of Swords doesn't view it as feasible, she's not going to be on board. This Queen of Swords is almost an energy that's like, it's a very agreeable energy. It's one that's like, I see that this is an issue, I see that this is a problem, but it's almost like she can be so skeptical that she's almost never a part of the solution. She won't support the solution because in her mind she can't see anything else ever coming to pass or ever being. Although like she sees it that it's a problem, but she's not energetically not the one to invest in the solution. And that can be us. It's like also our nature, where it's like, yeah, I know that I'm in a crappy situation, but I'm not going to do anything to get out of it or to make things better because nothing's going to work. It's an unhealthy level of pessimism, skepticism, and realism. It's an unhelpful level of skepticism, pessimism, and realism, quote unquote. Some have to see to believe, and that's okay. It's okay that some have to see to believe because some are there to be the trailblazers. It all works together. Again, just like our faults can work together to drive us apart, so can our potential work together to bring us together and elevate all of us. So maybe it's our mission to convince the Queen of Swords with our work to be different, to be the embodiment of something different. Because she would be a powerful ally, but she is not necessarily always easy to convince. But that's why we have people like Aries and Cancer and Libra and Capricorn to be those cardinal ones, right? To do the thing that no one else is doing, to make believers of the fixed signs. I guess that's Libra, Cardinal Air, Queen of Swords. Ooh, the bumblebee and the eagle. The beagle. Dragonfly. The beagle is interesting because there's is it a state park nearby? Sometimes they have there's turkeys out there. And they'll have turkeys in cages. And one day we were out there and there was a beagle, like a loose beagle. And it was after I saw the movie Shiloh. And the beagle was so friendly and so approachable, but it wasn't coming home with us. The bee and the eagle. The bee is the pollinator. The bee is this is the one with the Seven of Pentacles. The bee is the one that will do the work to convince Dragonfly at the bottom of the deck. To convince that Queen. The bee is also the producer of the honey when there was the honey drought because it was the middle of winter. But this is how high altitude honey. It's like, in Rapunzel, Entangled, how there's the magic flower at the top of the mountain or whatever that has healing properties. It's like this is a species of bee that only take the nectar from those flowers. So the honey of this bee has healing properties, has the same healing properties of the flower. This could also be the, what was it? The benevolent guide. It's a bee, but it's like this higher level, high altitude bee with the eagle and dragonfly again at the bottom of the deck. Oh, I was like, where did I put the box? Hello? And again, it's like it's the work of that bee to make honey from the mountaintops to convince the queen that it's possible. What an admirable job. And bees are so easy to not appreciate. But there are a lot of people that appreciate bees. Oh, look, there's the sugar. Raw honey at the kite with Pluto. The raw honey of Pluto. That Plutonian honey. The honeys of transformation. Okay. Put that on your everything bagel. It'll turn your everything bagel into the everything everywhere all at once bagel. Oh, wow, that bagel. Oof. Maybe not that bagel in particular. But maybe, who knows? All right, last final card from the Alchemy. 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 Alka us. Oh gosh. Hello. An acrobat, this one. The Drowned King, Rex Marinus. And this is number 49. Wow. And all those pearls of wisdom, all that gold. The Drowned King, and it was the honey of Pluto. Is that a coincidence? Maybe not. Oh, look, it's the missing season. Autumn. Autumn and the Drowned King. Okay, let's put it this way. Autumn is number 19. That's the 19 of the sun that came out at first. Autumn and the Drowned King. It's like water. Is it a water table? Google. What is a water table?
According to Wikipedia, the water table is the upper surface of the zone of saturation. The zone of saturation is where the pores and fractures of the ground are saturated with groundwater, which may be fresh, saline, or brackish, depending on the locality. It can also be simply explained as the depth below which the ground is saturated.
Not that. It's almost like there's this body of water underground, like an underground lake. The tree of autumn is here, and the underground lake is under it. Oh my gosh. Was that before the eagle? Was that before the eagle came out? Ain't no mountain high enough. Was it that song or was it a different song? No, it was the other song. Wherever you are, I'll be there. Whenever you call me. I mean, they're similar in vibe, right? Different songs, similar energies, maybe. The eagle was high. This drowned king is low. Rex Marinus, the drowned king. Ego collapse. Ego collapse, losing face and humility. This is the solution to the shadow box. Us getting over ourselves puts us in this fourth season. Autumn is the season of harvest. Die. But we got to get over ourselves to do it. In alchemy, the archetype of the king is often used as a symbol for the ego, the aspect of the self that is attached to its title, name, and identity. It is said that the drowned king is a required phase in the process of transformation. Only through dissolving who they thought they were is the king able to become who they are destined to be, a kind and benevolent leader. How does the drowning occur? Not voluntarily, that's for certain. Through circumstances beyond their control, the king is brought to their bottom, to their knees. When this card appears, expect a huge blow to the ego, impactful enough that it causes one to turn their life around, prioritizing grace over greed, benevolence over brutality, sovereignty over selfishness. The drowned king eventually resurfaces as a fully changed, benevolent being. Wow. 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 What? Like, literally? Thanks. That literally, like, wraps it all up so nicely. Cool. Again, he just has to get over his ego. Which is not easy necessarily for a king. Again, it's an attachment to his title, his perception, his whatever. When you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far. It's a song. Let me stop. Woo! What's the saying? Call Jesus, don't call me. I'm kidding. I am but a man, a humble, flawed, full of himself sometimes, egoic man. That's it. Noises. I don't know. Anyway, I guess that's it. Oh, let's see. Oh, crap. I just felt it. I pushed it. Who am I now? Here it is. In this world without her, petty and dull with the nerve to doubt her. What does it matter? It's already done. Now I've got to be there for her son. So, hand one is associated with the number 15. Did we see 15 today? Did we see 15? Yes. I want to say yes, but I think the answer is no. No. Yeah, we did. It was the shapeshifter. 15 was the shapeshifter. It was the shapeshifter in the cave. And that's when I was like, we have to change internally. The shift has to be internal. If we shift shape superficially, we're still the same at the core. And hand 6 is associated with the number 100 because 99 and a half won't do. All right. I hope y'all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey, may you find. I hope that when you're presented, I hope you. Oh, there was something about control. Oh, girl, what was the number? 56. Wrong book. Because Rex Marinus talked about a loss of control, which is also what Against Nature Contra Naturam talked about. 56. LVI. No, that was to force or control was against nature. The Contra Naturum card arrives to remind the alchemists they cannot control the uncontrollable. Rex Meritus released that control. So anyway, yeah, I hope that we can all get over ourselves enough to work together towards a brighter future. And maybe a bright future it doesn't replace anything that we've lost, but maybe we could see it. Hopefully, may it be sufficient enough to honor it, to not replace what we've lost, but to honor what we've lost, to honor the irreplaceable, right? Almost very like they would want you to be happy type of energy, you know? I don't know. Anyway. I'll see y'all next time. I don't know. I do know what box I packed my stuff in. I don't know where it is. And I use you know what? I'm gonna do it. I've used this deck so much. I was kind of sort of burnt out. Also, I still love it. Let's get one deck dungeon challenge for the road. Right? I only look at it from I grabbed the right half of the deck. The Page of Swords was at the top with the moon at the bottom. Oh, that card flipped over immediately. It's the Five of Swords. We already know what the challenge of the Five of Swords is. The challenge of the Five of Swords is to go from seeking to finding, changing one letter at a time. And it was seek, seed, send, bend, bind, find. Seeks, seeds, sends, bends, binds, finds. And again, that's like where Mars was to go about things in the way of Mars. It's to put ourselves in a situation where everything has to be done at once. If we throw out the king, we immediately gotta put somebody trustworthy in there. If not, the realm will descend into chaos for one, or if we're not mindful of who our new leaders are, we can end up with a tyrant that's even worse than the one that we just got rid of. You know? Be more destitute. But that is the challenge of the Five of Swords. The Five of Swords allows us to do it gradually. Anyway, that one last deck dungeon challenge. Bottom of the deck is the Page of Coins. That's the Knave of Pentacles. The one that was like dreaming of a better world. Oh my gosh. Okay, all right. Well, I can read that challenge. I don't think I've done that one. I'll do that one. And then we'll end it. Just so happened that the challenge of the Five of Swords was one that we just got. And it was the challenge of rotation, I believe. And that's interesting because from the 9 to the 6, it was inverted. And that was the challenge of rotation. The challenge of vibration was... Hold up. Am I doing that right? Did I do that right? What was the challenge of vibration? Or was that the challenge of vibration? Oh, gosh. It's fine. I do still need to look up. I was going to go to the video because I think I timestamped that one. Emphasis on think. Probably didn't. Yeah, I think the challenge of vibration was in I think it was the 9 of Cups. That was the challenge of vibration. And the challenge of rotation was that Five of Swords. To go from seeking to finding. Seeks to finds. Changing one letter at a time. And it had to be spoken aloud, too. Which is just an extra part. Blah, 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 blah. What are you doing? Hello? 109 was close-ish. Oh, I went right to it. The challenge of the page of coins. The acolyte of coins is practicing their sword forms with a wooden stick in this room. They greet anyone who enters eagerly. They ask to be taught a skill they do not know and offer to unlock the door in exchange. They can be hard to impress. If they are pleased with the new skill they are taught, they offer a robe of useful items as a gift before unlocking the door. Wow. It's almost like maybe that goes to the destroyer and the mother. It also honors the Nine of Wands. It's not just the uh, goal that's important, but the way that we go about accomplishing it is also important. Here's a page with a wooden sword asking to be taught a new skill. At the top of the deck was the Five of Swords. And it's almost a question of like, is that what we want our legacy to be? Or is that what we want to teach the Page of Coins? The means have to justify the extremes, or the extremes have to justify the means. What we do has to honor what we seek. Because if it does not, karma will see it come back around. Again, it passes from generation to generation, from snake to rabbit to snake to rabbit to snake back to the rabbit. Always avenging, always seeking. I'm pretty sure the robe of useful items. Well, we'll look it up. Robe of useful items 5e. Yep, it has patches. This robe has cloth patches of various shapes and colors covering it. This is what this says it looks like, if you're curious. Oop. Oop. Wrong one. Oh, now this is going to be the one without it. This robe has patches of various shapes and colors covering it. While wearing the robe, you can use an action to detach one of the patches, causing it to become the object or creature it represents. Once the last patch is removed, the robe becomes an ordinary garment. The robe has two of each of the following patches: dagger, bullseye lantern, filled inlet, steel mirror, 10-foot pole, hempen rope, and sack. In addition, the robe has 4d4 other patches. The DM chooses the patches or determines them randomly. Why not? Ooh, girl, this may be a lot. Hey, Google. Hey, Google. Roll 4d4s.
It's 1, 2, 3, and 3 for a total of 9.
9 patches. Let's do it. Hey, Google. Roll 2d10s.
You rolled 10 and 9 for a total of 19.
So that's 9. Silver coffer, 1 foot long, 6 inches wide and deep, worth 500 gold points. So that's the first patch. Hey Google, this is going to take too long. I'm going to do it here. Roll percentile dice. Thank you. I'm going to do it real quick. I got the table here. We'll do it here. This is 85. So we also have 2 mastiffs, a patch with 2 mastiffs, 58, a pit, which you can place on the ground within 10 feet of you. Pit in a patch. That was 3, 4, 84, 2 more mastiffs, 94, a window. which you can place on a vertical surface you can reach. 73, a rowboat, 12 feet long. 61, 4 potions of healing, and 67, 4 more potions of healing. So that's what we also get. All right, I gotta go to the restroom. I'll catch y'all later. Bye.